Have you ever wondered what happens when one of the most iconic fighting game characters steps into the grimy streets of Southtown? Well, today we're about to find out. What's up, YouTube? Kensu here. SNK invited me to an early access build to check out their first Street Fighter crossover DLC character, Mr. Ken Masters. I've literally been playing Ken for an extensive set of time, 200 plus hours of Ken experience. And trust me, I have some thoughts about Mr. Masters. So buckle up, get your little something to munch on, get your little drinky drink, get your little bevy, alright? As I drop my unfiltered first impressions of Ken Masters in Fatal Fury City of the Wolves. So let me go ahead and knock this out the way. I know someone's gonna ask, I know the first thing you want to know is how well did Ken translate to Fatal Fury? Ken, in my opinion, translated very well into Fatal Fury. In fact, I believe Ken's visual style adjustment to Fatal Fury is honestly, it's pretty flawless if you ask me. I even argue that I appreciate his visuals a bit more in this game than that of Street Fighter 6. From an animation standpoint, SNK really, and I mean really put love into Ken's animations in this game, and it definitely shows. They took many liberties and even have some really sick callbacks to previous versions of Ken, which I think is pretty neat. Taking a look at Ken's kit, right? So out the gate, he just felt really good to play, right? Like he didn't feel sluggish or anything of the sort. He just felt like he fit in Fatal Fury just naturally, right? And I gotta say, right, like a lot of times with guest characters, they can feel a bit out of place and a little outlandish. But again, in this instance, it just felt like Ken is just right at home. Like he just fits, man. I gotta tell you guys, I know I'm stressing this out, right? But truth be told, he just works. That being said, yeah, let me go and knock this out too, right? If you were concerned about the translation of his normals, let me assure you that despite this game being a 5-button fighter, Ken's other normals that are attached to the heavy buttons in Street Fighter still make their way here in City of the Wolves by way of command normals. So for example, his standing heavy punch in Street Fighter 6 is his forward and heavy punch in this game. And his signature standing heavy kick is now forward and heavy kick. Now, it does take a bit to get used to these moves as command normals in this game, but once you get over that hurdle, things are totally okay, and Ken still feels like Ken. So, in terms of Ken still feeling like Ken, right? He still feels the same, but his, So, in City of the Wolves, Ken's kit feels way more expansive than that of even Street Fighter 6, to be honest with you. And I'd say it's maybe even done too well. Sure, he's loaded with the standard Shoto tools, you know, your Fireball, your DP, your Tatsu. But I feel like his kit works so well in the rev system, it's quite interesting. And frankly, he feels like he was almost meant to be in this game, like 100%. Like it's pretty crazy. It's almost like Capcom, you know, granted, you know, they have been talking for a while now. We kind of know that they've had dealings before to the Wolves release, but it just feels like they just kind of just knew to work with Capcom on Ken, and you know, he was probably going to be the character through their business talks, and like just the way it works, man. I can't stress enough, you guys. It's almost like Ken was perfect for the game. So it's pretty unique. It's pretty cool, right? But the really interesting part about Ken is that visually, right? Visually, he's Street Fighter 6 Ken, but I feel from a playstyle perspective, they really pulled from arguably the most popular version of Ken. And if you're a fan of Ken, you know that his most popular version is Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. So yeah, he feels like Third Strike Ken plus more. Like, I really mean it when I say that if you've had any major playtime on Ken in Third Strike, you'll feel right at home with him in this game. The callbacks to that playstyle feel so prominent, but with the twist of both the Street Fighter 6 move kit and the City of the Wolves rev system really push Ken into something that honestly I've never seen before for this character. I would argue this is kind of comparable to what he is in like the only other time we've really ever seen Ken be a bit more outlandish, if you will, is like the versus games. But here it's peak. I gotta admit, it's peak. So I want to talk a bit more about Ken's unique mechanics to him, right? Ken not only brings over his kit, but he has a special mechanic to him, which is the ability to super cancel his rev arts, or his EX moves, if you will. This adds a new dynamic to the game, and it really allows Ken so much more freedom in his combos. Now, additionally, with the rev arts canceling system, Ken is allowed to do very unique pressure that players could only dream of for this character. So for example, you want to take your EX Fireball and do more with it? No problem, you can do that. You want to do more with Jinrai kicks? Hey, guess what? No problem, you can do that too. So it's just the sheer freedom that Ken gets from the rev system. I think players will have a lot of fun exploring new and interesting ways to build playstyles with Ken. Now, also, got to mention this, we can't forget that Ken also has a fireball feint for the first time ever. Ryu's only been the Street Fighter character to ever have that, so Ken now has it in this game. But in this case, in City of the Wolves, it's a bit more similar to Marco's, and it's pretty neat for his pressure, to be honest with you. Now, of course, being in City of the Wolves, he's also got break cancels on the following specials: his heavy and EX Tatsu, and his heavy and EX Shoryuken. These allow for some pretty sick, nasty combos, especially with the EX Tatsu break. So cool to work with. Trust, that is peak for Ken players. Now, while you get to do some pretty cool and unique combos with the EX Tatsu break, you also get a little bit more trickery with the heavy Tatsu break as well. Again, it's just opening up doors where Ken never really had in other games, making him extremely unique this time around. Like, I'm very impressed with how in most recent time they're trying to take the standard characters and make them a lot more unique, give them more tricky options. Give them more tricky options and make them more, basically just make characters just stand out a lot more. So it's, again, I can't stress it enough, it's really cool to see how Ken turned out this time around in City of the Wolves. So, in other words, while in my opinion, at the moment, the ground basis of Ken in City of the Wolves may be, in fact, Third Strike Ken, make no mistake that no two Ken players will ever look the same in this game. The freedom of player expression is there in full effect, and it can only go up as you get better with Ken in City of the Wolves. So with all of this, in summary, Ken is just out of the box, just a cool character to play in City of the Wolves, and I think SNK did a amazing job on transferring him straight from Street Fighter right into Fatal Fury. And I just think he's just something that a lot of people that enjoy Ken as a character and love his playstyle, they're gonna feel right at home with him here. And I can't wait to see what players do when he comes out. Yeah, but before I get up out of here, once again, I want to give a big thanks to SNK for allowing me some extensive playtime with Ken and to be able to bring this video here to you guys. So big ups to SNK. You guys be sure to give them a follow on socials. Be sure to check out Fatal Fury to the Wolves moving forward. And Ken coming soon. Check it out. Give him some burn. I assure you, you're going to have a lot of fun playing Ken. Trust me, you're going to have mad fun. With that being said, let me get up out of here and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Talk to me in the comments. How you feeling about Ken? Let me know. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care. Peace.